We might kick off and begin the session, team. Welcome to Study Melbourne Career Catalyst online workshop for how to create a great resume. My name is Penny Holloway. I'm your presenter for today's session. I'm Head of Marketing and Communications for InternMatch, and InternMatch is the program delivery partner for Study Melbourne Career Catalyst. We specialise in placing students into internships, and I look forward to taking you through all about creating a fantastic resume today, where I can share with you tips and tricks and everything I know through working through InternMatch and my career. Before we begin, I would like to begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respect to their elders past and present. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. So let's go through a little bit about what we're going to cover in today's workshop. Beautiful big session around everything you need to know around resumes, creating a fantastic CV to get you into the job market, and everything you need to know to build one out. So first of all, we'll go through what it is exactly Australian talent teams are looking for in a great resume. We'll cover what you need to include and the layout of all that information. I'll also take you through exactly how to craft that content and make sure that it's written in a way that really fits the Australian resume type for the roles you'll be applying for. And finally, I'm going to give you a fantastic template, a free template that you can use and get kicking with straight away after this session. So by the end of today, you will have a beautiful template, a design to get commencing with, and all the information you need to know to be able to build out a sensational resume. So let's get into it. First things first, your resume is the first impression you're providing to your potential employer. So you want to make sure it's a pretty great introduction. We get about 7 seconds in the real world to make a first impression. Now online, that is about 2 seconds. And you are most of the time providing your resume in an online format. So these talent teams, recruiters, HR managers, and supervisors have got just a couple of seconds to decide whether they think that it is worthwhile perusing the rest of your resume and finding out if you're the right fit for the role, or if they want to pass on to the next person. So we want to make sure that that initial, from the opening of the resume to the content that feeds throughout it, is really delicious and sensational, so that you are better equipped to being able to get an interview for that role. So let's just begin with some little housekeeping, some really nitty-gritty bits and pieces of what it is to have a really great resume before we start breaking things down. So first of all, a resume, you might also know this as a CV, a curriculum vitae. It is a document essentially that lists your work experience, your education, your skills, and your achievements in one nice little small package. And that is then provided to these HR teams, these recruiters, managers, potentially even people that are not in HR that are running the business. And that is how they decide to take you through to the next step of a recruitment process. You're going to need a resume for almost any job application. Nowadays, it doesn't matter if it's a service-based, casual work, full-time work, regardless of the industry, regardless of the remit that you are working in, you're going to need a CV or a resume for that job application. Often, you will need a CV and a cover letter. Today, we're going to focus really on resumes, but we'll go through a little bit about what the difference is with those two, so you know that you need to look out for whether you need to use a cover letter in your applications. And these days, as I mentioned, these are both typically submitted online. So even down to the way that you submit these applications, how that document is sent is really important, and we'll cover that today to make sure that you are not letting anything get in the way of a really sensational application process. So first things first, in a nutshell, a resume is a broad overview of your education and career history. It utilizes small, sharp sentences and dot points. It's a summary of all that information brought into what you're going to find out is 2 pages. It's really condensing everything there is to tell about you, but leaving that supervisor, that hiring manager, wanting to find out more about you. A cover letter isn't always asked for, but often it is a requirement of an application, and it's often a nice to have. It's a nice thing to be able to provide an application in addition to a resume, because it's giving a little bit more narrative about who you are. It's less about the nitty-gritty, and it's an opportunity to be able to provide personality and storytelling into your application for that role. It uses longer form narrative, and it's that 1-pager that really summarizes why you're enthusiastic to apply for that specific role. Your cover letter is tailored for the specific role that you are applying for, whereas your resume can be used for multiple job applications, potentially with a little bit of tweaking to make sure it's correct for that particular niche or industry. We are going to focus mostly on your resume today because that is the really key part of this, and every application is going to need a resume. So let's get you started in that realm. So let's kick off with talking a little bit about what Australian talent teams are looking for. At the end of the day, talent teams are really busy. HR teams, recruiters, supervisors that are hiring for roles often will have hundreds, depending on the kind of market at the time. And the market over the last couple of years has really fluctuated. It's changed a lot as to whether it's really high applications or really low applications. But most commonly, recruitment teams are coming across hundreds and hundreds of applications for a role in their day-to-day. They have other things that they are doing for their job. They are often hiring for multiple roles. And so they are needing a really to-the-point, clear-cut application from a great candidate that pricks their engagement and makes them want to find out more. So the key of today's session is going to give you the tools to make sure that you are cutting through the other fluff of other applications and really standing out because you're making that recruiter's life easier. Your job is to make the recruiter and the supervisor and the hiring manager's role a lot easier by saying that person looks fantastic, let's bring them in for an interview. At the end of the day, your resume needs to be really easy to scan and really quick for them to identify key information that is threaded throughout that application. We want to see a demonstration of really good written communication skills. So from the get-go, they are reading. They are absorbing this information through reading, and they're going to be looking for really fantastic professional communication skills that demonstrates you can take that into a role. It sounds quite basic, but a really clear career and study trajectory. They want to be able to see what you're doing now and where you've come from to get to there. Key details that pertain to the role. We're looking for qualifications, education, what study you've done, other courses and short courses that really relate to the role that you're applying for. Obviously, your experience, the bits and pieces that really make you a great candidate for the role. And that will often come from keywords that you have thread throughout your resume. So something to keep in mind when you're writing this content is that if you are, for example, a marketer like myself, and you are applying for marketing roles, what are the key services, the key words that a marketing recruiter is going to be looking for when they are scanning a resume to kind of say that person really does know everything they need to know about digital marketing. These are things you want to strategically thread throughout your resume. You also want to make sure that your contact information, your name, where you're based, is there. Your LinkedIn is really, really clear and easy to find, and we'll go through where that is placed in a moment. We also need really factual examples, and I'm going to hammer on about this throughout today's session because it's a really important part of a resume that's often overlooked, and that is that you need to thread what we're going to call conversation starters throughout your resume and even your cover letter when you write that as well. What really succinct examples, statistics, numbers can you thread throughout your resume and throughout your experience that are very easy to scan and that make a hiring manager be able to kind of hook onto something? Our brains love stats, facts, and numbers. It's really digestible for our brain to read. And it means there's probably some quantitative data of an example of what you have done in your experience that's going to come within that sentence that they can really relate to. There are also things that they can ask you about when you are in the interview. So we want factual examples and less fluff content. We'll go through this. And obviously a hiring manager is also looking for professionalism in the presentation of your CV. So has your resume got a really nice layout? Do you know how to well structure a document? These are things that are going to relate to how you work as a professional in the role in the future. So it's a great first impression to start giving them. Let's just quickly break down what a bad and a good resume look like before we start getting into a great resume example. And remember, I'm going to take you through a real deal example of a resume that you can use afterwards to take you through a good resume. But let's just revisit some of those things that make a bad resume bad. First things first, it might throw you a little bit, but if it's a Word document, that pertains to a bad resume. And it's for a couple of reasons. Word documents don't lock and load the structure of the content and the formatting. So if you are sending a Word document, depending on what software the recruiter is using at their end, it may distort a lot of the information that you've spent a really long time on beautifully laying out. You might have popped tables in and had something left aligned over here and it looked fantastic at your end, but you can't guarantee if you send a Word document what that looks like at their end. And it'd be really disappointing if you found out that you didn't get a role or didn't get a look in for a role because the resume just had completely not actually shared information the best way. And they might not know that it actually was looking fantastic at your end. So we don't want a Word document. It can't be too busy, too overloaded with information, or too long. We're going to get into that length as we go throughout this session, but too long, especially when you're early in your career, is rafts and rafts and rafts of pages and information that is just more info than this person probably has time to digest. Remember, your resume is a taster. It entices them to take you through to next steps. So we're just looking for key bite-sized info that gives them enough information, the right sort of information, but it's not waffling on, it's not overloading them. It's also not too busy in how it looks. It's not like an over sensation for the vision. It's nice and clean, really sharply put together, which we'll get to with a good resume. But in the same breath, it can't also be too scarce. It can't look incomplete. You need to give this recruiting manager some information to hook into, a little bit of depth into your experience. And if you don't have a great deal of experience yet, we're going to go through this afternoon how you can pad that out. And it really is important to find that balance. If it's super fluffy, if you're just writing words, but without really any solid examples, no stats and facts about what you've been doing, nothing that recruiter can really hook into and ask you about specifically, we don't want fluffy resumes because it may come across as that you actually haven't done a lot of things in your study and your career that relates to the role. We don't want fluff content. We'll go to that as well in this afternoon. And obviously things like grammar, your grammar has to be really important. If this person is looking to see if you're a right fit for their business, things like poor grammar are going to probably go against you as far as how you're going to communicate with stakeholders internally, with superiors. So really making sure that your resume has the right grammar, spelling is super important. And as I mentioned, badly designed. Is it really bright? Is there too much happening? Is it just looking a bit dated? The design is key because our brains are incredibly aesthetic and we look for things that just feel nice to read and to look at. So the look and feel is really vital. This template's going to help you with that a lot. So a good resume, on the flip side, we're looking for a PDF document. A PDF is going to lock and load what you create and save at your end is going to be represented in the same way at the end of that recruiter opening it. So we want a PDF document. Make sure you PDF and save everything that you create and send it that way. The perfect length at the beginning of your career is 2 pages. We want a little bit of information, not too much, but enough to say that like you are experienced enough to be able to start tackling this job and adding value to that company. It's clean, it's simple, it's neat in its presentation, it's easy to read, it's nice to scan. We want those facts, stats, and examples I spoke about, which we'll go through in your experience section a little more. It's well written, it's beautifully communicated, and there's a method to your layout. We'll go through chronological order when we get to layout, but there is sensical kind of methodology applied to the way that you have laid your resume out. And again, it's really nice and quick for our brain to look at and kind of go from one thing to the next. So what are you going to include in your resume? There is method to the madness, and it is easy to get this stuff wrong. So let's go through the key sections that I want you to start opening up a document and breaking down as we go through this, the things that you can add into yours. If you have 2 screens, I strongly suggest having this up on one and a document on the other screen, and start mapping out these sections as we go. Start giving yourself some food for thought so that after today's session, you can really think about this and start to add more information in. Today's session is recorded, so we will be able to go back and share this with you, and you can access that information again and revisit all of this. But start having a think about these sections. Your resume should include the following. Your contact information. Sounds simple. We'll go through exactly what that information is in a second. We're going to include a short summary or career objective. A little opportunity, particularly when you're early on in your career, to kind of sell what you're doing and why you'd add value really succinctly and where you want to go with your career to this recruiting manager. Obviously, your work experience. We're going to break down any work experience that you have and try and really beef that out and make it really valuable and really showcase a lot of the things that you have done and that you can do for a business. Obviously, your education and your qualifications, and that's more than just your university degrees. We're going to go through some really great technical courses that you should be adding on there to really show that you have professional and personal development at the front and center of what you want to do in your career. That leads into professional development really well, soft skills, technical skills, and everything that kind of adds value to what you do and what you can add to this company. So let's start breaking down these sections. We're going to really go quite in depth to each of these areas and then the layout of all of this. So great time now to start taking notes and thinking about your sections. So contact information sounds simple. It's going to be at the top of the page, really clear and really simple for that recruiter to access. Keep in mind that they've looked at your resume, they love it, they've sent it off to somebody else. They want to be able to jump back in there at any time and go, that's right, that's the person I'm looking for. I want to contact them right now. And they're not hunting for it. It's right there and easy for them to grab. You want to include your full name and use your preferred name in there as well. How do you want them to address you? Your phone number, your email address. On your email address, I strongly note if you are still using a personal email that's from a few years ago, perhaps it's got like some cutesy fun words in it, maybe it's a Hotmail, try and make yourself look more advanced and more professional. Get a Gmail or an Outlook and try and keep it as close to your name as possible. Perhaps you need to add in some like underscores or a couple of numbers if your name is taken, but try and keep it as professional as possible. And I strongly suggest getting a Gmail or an Outlook for that to keep it really top level. A link to your LinkedIn profile. We're not including the actual link, not the URL, not the full line of it. I want you to actually hyperlink your LinkedIn profile. Perhaps it says visit LinkedIn profile, and hyperlink that out to your profile. People know these documents are digital. Recruiters know that they can click on things. So you don't need to actually include the full URL. I want you to keep it succinct and clean. And finally, I want you to pop your location in there. Perhaps this role is open to remote work. Perhaps they're looking for someone in a particular area. Pop your location in there so that they know whether you're based in Melbourne, you're abroad, wherever it is. It's just really clear for them and they know what they can ask you about when it gets to interview time. Career summary or objective. This is a short little paragraph that's going to explain to the recruiter what you want to do with this role. Where are you going? If you've just started in your career, this is a really nice way to kind of say, I am brand new to the workforce and I am ready to rock and roll. So let's look at an example like this that you could use and reframe for yours. Let's pretend that I am starting out as a marketer and I am trying to explain that I've just come out of university and that I'm ready to go. So it just needs to be a couple of tiny little sentences. And it's going to say something like, I'm a motivated and skilled marketing graduate. So they immediately know that I'm just out of university. Having recently completed my master's in marketing with La Trobe University. You're just giving them some immediate little hooks that go, oh, she's done a master's. Oh, she's done with La Trobe University. They might know someone at La Trobe University. They might have come from La Trobe themselves. It's giving them things that they can connect to. Also, don't be afraid by saying that you're a marketing graduate. We love hiring graduates. Fresh, enthusiastic, ready to rock and roll, easy to mold into company culture. People want to see that sort of stuff. My next sentence is going to say something like, I'm fascinated by social media marketing and I'm excited to commence a career in influencer marketing. It connects the dots that I know about one of the remits in marketing. I know all about social media marketing. I know that it's important and I'm excited about it. I'm more than just a generalist marketer. I want to work specifically in this niche of my industry. And then I finish that with the role that I want to get into. So if you are applying for an influencer marketing graduate role, I'm going to pop in there that I'm excited about influencer marketing. If I'm applying for a social media paid marketer role, I'm going to pop in there that I'm excited to commence a career in social media marketing. Keep it specific to the role you're applying for. As a manager, I'm going to get excited to see that you want to work specifically in the remit that I am hiring for, not the broader area, exactly that role. That gets me really excited. In addition to university, I've spent the last 3 years gaining professional experience across marketing agencies and events. What that says to the person who's reading this is that, yes, I'm a marketing graduate, but I have spent many years trying to get experience so that I'm ready for you to take me on. It also sparks interest with that recruiter that they're like, oh, she's done some things already in the area. I want to find out more about what she's done. And that's when they can start to scan my resume and see internships and work experience that I've tackled. We're going to get to experience in a second. So if you haven't got any experience, let's come back to that. But this says that I am new, but that I am more than what perhaps you think. I'm more than what meets the eye. And that's exactly what a great recruiter is looking for in a really good candidate. That's all your summary needs to say. Really brief, little teaser, key information. Opportunity to sell yourself when you perhaps are starting out in your career. Let's jump into work experience. So this is the meatiest section of your resume. It's the largest part of the 2 pages. And it's where you're going to pad out in chronological order what you're doing and what you've been doing to work towards a career in this industry. We're going to go through the breakdown of what that looks like in a second, but you're going to start by saying the who, what, where of what you're doing, where you did it, who you did it for, and what that kind of involved, what your responsibilities were and the things that you achieved. You're going to dot point it out so that it's really easy to scan, that you can help pad out the information for yourself when you're doing this. But it's short, sharp sentences, no fluff words. If you do not have any experience, I strongly, strongly suggest that you start looking for some work experience, some unpaid roles. They may be internships, they may be volunteering at events or volunteering in the niche that you work for. And there are plenty of websites that can give you this sort of experience to start being able to add sections into your resume. If you also have a part-time job or something that's not related to the industry, but you do have work experience, that's fantastic. We still want that in there. And the way that you would really emphasize that is you're going to draw out the things that you did in that role that may have nothing to do with your studying or the job you're applying for, but that relate as closely as possible. So for example, if you have worked in retail as a casual sales assistant, but that you are applying for a marketing role, perhaps did you work with the head office team every now and then and provide them content for social media? Did you send them photos of things? Did you post every now and then on the company social? These are the things I want you to draw out from that role and pop those in there. But then there's also really great transferable skills that relate to every role. So in a retail role, you're going to have sensational customer service experience. So I want you to pop that in there because a customer service experience is vital for every role that has an element of customer facing or stakeholder management. So you're going to weave the content to tailor it as best as you can. I'll show you layout towards the end of the presentation. But this is the sort of things you need to include, and it's going to look and feel just like this. So let's go through a live example. Let's say that I'm including my current role on my resume, and I'm going to pop on there that I'm working at InternMatch. Let's start at the left and work our way across. We're going to pop the company in there, the role that I had, I'm a marketing intern, the duration of my time there, I was an intern from March till June 2022, hypothetically, and where I did that role. That role was based in Melbourne. We're then going to include a little sentence about the company because I don't want you to assume that everybody reading these resumes knows the companies you're talking about. Often we don't. We know our realm and that's about it. So I'm going to tell this person that InternMatch is a global ed tech company focused on increasing employment and career outcomes through internship placements. I'm then going to pop in there the responsibilities and achievements that I've undertaken whilst in that role. Short, sharp dot points. The first one's going to be something like assisted in managing company social media platforms, including, now this is when I talk about facts, figures, and specific examples. If we just had assisted in managing company social media platforms, that's not providing me as a manager much information about what kind of platforms. Does she know the softwares that we use? But the minute that I add in LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, as a recruiter, I might go, oh, fantastic. We use LinkedIn and Instagram here. She knows exactly the platforms that we already use. You're already providing vital examples that these recruiters can draw upon in conversations. Next dot point. Ideated and developed 15 content pieces per week across a variety of topics, including topic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, business development, careers, community, customer service. What that dot point shows the person reading your resume is that, first of all, they're like, what's this 15 thing about? And they can jump into that dot point and go, oh, she's producing quite a lot of content for this team. It also says the areas that I know how to post content about, the variety of the things that I know about in marketing. It's giving them more than just, I have done a thing. The next dot point, assisted in running company events and the things that I did at that event, manning registration tables, assisting guests, organizing name tags, assisting the event manager. That dot point tells us that I know how to do X, Y, Z things in event management. Again, the recruiter might go, fantastic. I need help with name tags. I need help with registration tables. You're automatically showing specific things that you know how to do. If you want to go one better, look at the job advertisement and pick out the things that you know how to do from that job advertisement and link them back to your resume in this way. So if they're specifically asking for somebody that knows how to write content, then I'm going to include a dot point about writing content, because it's automatically going to talk to their brain about the things that they need help with. And the last dot point, developed and sent weekly internal communications newsletter match report. Now, what that does by including a word that is very internal to the role that I do at InternMatch, what it says to the recruiter is a little thing that they can actually bring up in our interview. They can say, now I see you're producing a match report. Tell me more about the match report that you do. It's giving specific examples that they can draw upon that you know about, that you can give examples about in an interview. Now, if we look at this, what have we got broken down here? First section in the corner, who, what, where, when. Who you worked for, what you did, when you did it, and where you did it. The one underneath it, a sentence explaining who the company is. And then over in the responsibilities and achievements, 4 to 5 dot points about what you do. No more. That's all we need, 4 to 5 dot points. Make them good, kind of lengthy dot points, but 4 to 5 is fine. Let's jump into education and qualifications. This is pretty short and succinct. It's the things that you have become skilled and certified at. So it might be things like your university degrees, TAFE or vocational education, high school qualifications, or maybe it's industry-based qualifications. So for example, if you are an accountant, you might have your university degree, and then you might have your CA or your CPA on there as well. What that looks like is this example over on the right. We're going to have the name of the study that you did. So it might be a Bachelor of Business, major in marketing. The university that you did it at, and the time frame of which you did it at. This shows them that it is either finished or continued going, that it's recent, and therefore it's up to date. Really simple. We want you to include this for as many of these as you have. If you have 3 degrees, include them all. Fantastic. Shows breadth of like your experience, and it shows an interest for continued learning and development, which is a recruiter we love. And then you want to include really, really vital professional development, things you've done outside of formal degrees that show you have experience and skills specifically in your niche. Now, for a marketer, that might be things like jumping online and searching for any free education I can get around softwares and programs that marketers use. You could be in engineering, you could be in architecture, you could be in marketing, it doesn't matter what it is. There will be free courses you can do that contribute to your career around that area. For marketing, that might be things like HubSpot, which is a CRM, customer relationship management program. Maybe I can go and do HubSpot Academy and do a day's worth of training. And now I already know how to use that program that potentially that company uses. Maybe it's going and doing my certification in Google Analytics. These are amazing things to have. What it tells me as a manager is that you can hit the ground running and already know how to use the programs, because utilizing programs is probably the trickiest thing to teach somebody once they begin in a role. If you already know, then you require a lot less hands-on training, which is better time and efficiency management for that potential recruiter to look at. Include as many as these as you've done, and I'll show you where to include them when we get to layout. And we also want to provide some quick scanning, easy to access, really easy to identify skills and technical experience you have. So what are the few things that you do really well? These are also the keywords that I spoke about in the beginning that the recruiter can look at and go, oh, I need someone who's great at presenting. I need someone who's an amazing marketer. We're going to outline what they might be. Professional skills are your career competencies and abilities and personal attributes that enable someone to succeed in the workplace. We'll come back to examples in a second. Technical skills are the specialized knowledge and experience required to perform a specific task, like tools and programs, what we just spoke about. So what they might look like, professional skills could be project management. I might be a great leader already. Maybe I've already managed people. Communication skills, public speaking, facilitation and training like I'm doing right now. These might be the skills that that company really needs. Fantastic, transferable, great at any company professional skills. And then technical skills are things like, maybe I'm great at using Microsoft Word. If that company uses Microsoft, fantastic, I'm already across it. HubSpot, like we just spoke about. Java, Monday.com project management. Maybe I'm already qualified in using InDesign. Maybe I already know how to use that program. Add those things in. We just want 4 to 5 really great key ones that will get a recruiter really excited. So we've got all of our information. We've just covered. That's the things you need to include. That's it. We're going to pad it out. So how do you now lay this out? I'm going to give you this template in a second, but in the meantime, I want you to go through these layout rules. Whether you use our template or you have your own or you find one externally, whatever you might do, totally fine, up to you. I want you to go by these kind of rules when you're building it. 2 pages, not 1, not 3, 2. If you are starting out in your career, 2 pages. As you get further advanced, my resume is now like 3, 4 pages, but I have a lot more experience I need to cover off on there. I want you to embrace white space. Spread your information out, give their breathing room for them to be able to read it, make sure it's easy to digest. I'll show you white space in a second. Keep your layout really clean and really easy to scan and read. Utilize the space on the page cleverly. Efficiently kind of like spread it out. Make sure you kind of don't, like you could have wasted space. I'm going to show you how to kind of break your page down to get as much in as you possibly can that's still looking really nice and clean. Clear headings, chronological order, latest to most furthest, like the most recent to the most furthest away of your experience, and your name and contact info at the top of the page always, and references at the end. Start with your name, end with your references. So what does all that look like? Something like this. I'm biased because I'm actually giving you my resume. This template is incredible, has landed me a lot of roles and has given me some incredible feedback from recruiters. We're going to give you this actual template that you can download in a second. But let's go through, before you do that, I want to take you through why it's set out this way. We're going to break down both pages section by section by section. But let's start with the top and kind of work our way through. But you see how nice and clean this is? When you download this resume, you're going to literally just use the filler content and replace it with your own stuff. If you follow this function, it's going to look really nice and clean, really easy to read. It's got enough information, but not too much. And it looks really professional and modern. Like if I received this, I'd be pumped. Again, it is my resume, so I'm biased, but it works. Let's start at the top. I want you to always have your first name, surname, your expertise. What are you skilled in? If you are you shouldn't be applying for a role that you don't know how to do. So if you are a marketer and you're applying for marketing roles, I want you to have in there Penny Holloway, digital marketer. If the role is for event management, then I want to have Penny Holloway, event manager. Own the role that you have just gone and studied for years and years about. That is now your skill and specification. You are a marketer, you are an engineer, you are a nurse, whatever it might be. And then over in the right corner, really quick to access, really easy, you're going to have your phone number, your email, hyperlink to your profile. So I don't want you to write hyperlink to your LinkedIn profile. I want you to replace that with my LinkedIn profile or view LinkedIn profile and hyperlink that out. And then finally, your location. Where are you based? Let's start with the blue. Career summary. That's as big as it needs to be. Couple of sentences about what you're doing. We went through the sections to include who you are, what you're doing, and where you want to go with your career. That's going to sit up there. We're then going to start filling out your career experience. Now, you will note that on those 2 pages, there are about 3 to 4 places you can pop career experience. So if you don't yet have 3 to 4 things that you have done to work towards your career, and I'm not suggesting 3 to 4 jobs, I'm suggesting 3 to 4 experiences that you have gone and personally seeked out to work towards your career. Work experience, working for a family friend, internship, volunteering, part-time job. Whatever it is, I want to see them in here. If you don't have them, now's a great time to go and try and get that experience and pop them on there. The first one might be your current part-time job in hospitality, in retail, whatever it might be. Again, still great to include. The next one might be volunteering for a community or a charity-based event. It might have only been for a couple of days. That's totally fine still. What did you do in your time there? I can see Q&As coming through. Thank you for that. And at the end of the session, I'll go through all the questions and answers. So keep pumping them through. The dates, the company, the role that you did. Remember, we said a little overview about the company, and then the dot points about what you're doing or what you did at that company, the achievements you've had. Obviously, the next one down is going to be the second role. And on page 2, you'll see the third and fourth. Same structure, different role. Qualifications and degrees go up here in that education piece. Provider name, year obtained, degree that you've had. You'll note that the next section here, professional development, this is when we're going to include things like HubSpot courses, Google Analytics, some sort of certification that you've gone and are trying to achieve through LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, just Googling. Heaps of courses available. Go and find the courses that relate to your industry and pop them in here. You'll note on page 2, we're keeping our name and our details at the top. Always keep your name and details at the top. This is really handy in case some reason your first page gets lost. They connect. They know that they're both your pages. Keep your name front and center. The next bit, we're going to pop in your soft skills. What skills do you have around public speaking, leadership, team engagement? Are you really good at energizing teams? Are you really great, at facilitating small group sessions? Whatever it is, pop them in there. You can literally Google some examples of soft skills. Go and have a Google and tell me which ones of those you are really great at. Pop those in there. Technical skills, Microsoft Word, Google Suite, social media pages. Specify what you're fantastic at in there that relate to the industry that you're applying for. Specific engineering platforms. There could be a variety of things. Start Googling, building it out. If you don't have them, go and look for those things that you can get technical skills in. We then start adding on the rest of our experience. We're probably getting a few years back now. Was it a part-time job you had previously? Was it an internship you did a couple of years ago? Pop those things in there. And then finally, we have your professional references. Now, it's up to you how do you include these. If you just want to pop a note in there, you can have the same section and say references on request, references available upon request. But if your references know that you are applying for roles, I strongly recommend popping them in there immediately. It's a lot easier for me as a recruiter to not have to ask for them. I've already got them. I can let you know when I'm contacting them, but they're there and they're ready to go. What it also shows is that your caliber of references relates back to the roles. So if you've mentioned a really great internship that you did with a company and your reference is a manager from that company, that's really calming to me as a manager to know that you had this great experience, you did these things, and this person's going to agree with that and give their reference about how fantastic you are. I strongly recommend popping your references down on your resume from the get-go. Perhaps you can pop their name and title down, and you can add the phone, you can have phone number and email available on request, whatever you're comfortable with. But if they're really fantastic caliber, pop them in there. So here it is. This is the template that you can access. If you scan that code now, it will take you through to Canva. It is under my name. You can access this resume template, make a copy of it. All you need to do, scan the code, select use template. You can sign up for Canva with a free account. Canva is a fantastic graphic design software, really easy to use, super user intuitive. You'll love it. Just use your email to sign up and then simply go through and replace the content that is there with your content. I am giving you my blessing to use this template. It is all yours. Amend it however you want, but this is a great starting point for you. And then you can download it as a PDF and send it off. I'll leave that up for a second to give you guys time to scan on your mobile. But it's yours to use. Go for it. Final tips and tricks, and then we'll get into some questions, guys. Your resume must only be 2 pages. No more, no less. We want it 2 pages. Have someone proofread for spelling and grammar. I'm terrible at this. I still make mistakes. I need someone to look over it. When you've been spending so much time on something, you will miss little bits and pieces. So either have someone proofread or jump onto something like Grammarly and download it so that you can access that and have grammar checked. Ensure you save your resume as a PDF always. That's going to help you with formatting. Where possible, include stats, data, examples. These are tangible results that hiring managers can actually ask you questions about. They are my key tips and tricks. These will really, really help you in getting a really fantastic resume. And if you follow the template, you will have a sensational experience. Before we get to Q&A, I want to invite you guys to a really amazing event we're hosting next month, 16th of November, 6 o'clock till 10 o'clock. Come along and join us for a really beautiful session with Anu Villarosa as our keynote speaker. She is the Director of People for Pitcher Partners, one of the large accounting and advisory firms here in Australia. She's going to tell us all about why you need to work for a company with an innovative culture. She's going to take you through what that looks like, how to seek out those companies, what you can learn from them, and how you can be a really high functioning individual. We'd love you guys to come along, network with students, network with peers, network with other business leaders that are there. Join us for canapes and drinks on the rooftop at Alto in the CBD. If you scan that code, you'll be able to access the registration page and come along for a great evening. Now let's jump along to questions. I'll just jump and see any Q&A that's hopped through there. Bear with me. The question is, may I ask if it is advisable to include LinkedIn? Well, LinkedIn contains comparatively general info, but our resumes may be specifically directed to, yeah, this is a great question. So LinkedIn, your LinkedIn and resume should reflect one another. because the content at the end of the day should be very honest and truthful to the experience that you have. Keeping your resume and your LinkedIn honest is going to save you from being in a lot of hot water and getting yourself into a role that you actually aren't qualified or set up to do. So I strongly suggest finesse and perfect your LinkedIn. Make it really fantastic. Sorry. Finesse and perfect your resume. Make it really fantastic. Get all of your information hashed out. That is your private personal document that you send specifically to recruiters. Then go and get your LinkedIn, either set up or amend your LinkedIn to reflect the bits of the information that are the same on your resume, but withhold some of those details. Your LinkedIn should be a teaser for someone wanting to find out more about you. You don't have to divulge all that personal information, the bits and pieces, the stats and facts. That's for your resume. But somebody should be able to look at your resume and LinkedIn side by side, and the experience and the order should all match up. They should be honest and the same. But on LinkedIn, you might include less of the details about like what you specifically did, programs, things that often are quite private to that company. And so you probably don't want to have that divulged all over LinkedIn. We are going to have a LinkedIn webinar and online workshop in the next few weeks. I strongly recommend you coming back and checking for that later, and we'll go through how you make your LinkedIn really sensational, because LinkedIn can also help you land roles without a resume at all. So definitely include your LinkedIn. And if for any reason your LinkedIn isn't reflecting the same as your resume, then I strongly suggest you might need to have a look at your experience and skills and the roles you're applying for. So if your experience, it's okay that your experience, if you're early on in your career, maybe doesn't relate yet to the career you're going for. That's where you want to pull out those transferable skills or go and try and get experience in that area. That's my best suggestion there for those ones. Any pointers to invite referees? It seems a lot to ask for someone to endorse me, and therefore is there a time limit? I fired a great boss like 7 years ago, but she may have already left that company. Great question. A reference can be from many different places. Often we want to see a professional reference. So that is someone who you have worked for or worked with, someone who is a supervisor to you. So that might be someone at your current company, somebody at a previous company, or perhaps if you did an internship or volunteering, someone in there that can vouch for you to say, yes, they were fantastic at that role. There isn't a time limit, so to speak. However, as a manager, we are looking for experience that relates to the role that you're applying for. And you probably have learned your best skills and finessed your craft in the most recent years, in the couple of years prior to applying for this job. So you really want to look for somebody who is from the last couple of years. Now, again, if you don't have someone that you think would be really proud to say, yes, they did a great job, then perhaps you need to go do an internship. Perhaps you need to go do some work experience, volunteer. And then when you've had that really fantastic experience and you've given a great deal of value to that company, it may only be for a week. That's totally fine. You email that person, you say, thank you so much for the opportunity. Would you mind being a reference? I'm applying for great roles in marketing, engineering, whatever it is. Would you mind if I popped you down as a reference? I'm often asked to be a reference for previous people who work for me, and it's not a hassle. People are happy to help. If they think that you were of value to their company, they are happy to help you. They want to see you succeed. The other kind of reference you can get is a personal reference. Now, it's not personal like friends and family. It's somebody perhaps who you have had professional relationships with, perhaps that they were a stakeholder of a company you worked for. Maybe they were a professor or a lecturer at your university who you had a great relationship with. They are someone who can vouch for your work ethic and your keenness for working. It's great to have both. and you just need to explain where they've come from in your resume. So for your work one, you might say, Penny Holloway, she was my manager at InternMatch, and the dates at which you worked for them for. For your personal one, you might have someone's name, John Smith, and that he was your lecturer for this subject at university, La Trobe University, and what year that was. That is exactly the kind of information I'm looking for. And your next question around a photo, fantastic question. And I'm really glad you asked, because I wanted to go through it and it actually slipped my mind. It is completely up to you. There is no standard in Australia around including a photo, and it often depends on the kind of industry you're applying for. It is a really, really nice addition to a bit of a look into someone's personality, and it adds a bit of depth to a resume. I used to include my photo on there. The last one I applied for, I didn't, because I had my LinkedIn on there, and your LinkedIn should have a photo. You should absolutely have a photo on your LinkedIn. And I think it's okay to leave it off your resume. And mostly it comes down to layout and just finding the space to include it. And that's why LinkedIn's a great place. They can link out and they can find more information about you that wasn't on your resume. And if you're posting regularly on LinkedIn, which if you go to our LinkedIn session will encourage, I strongly recommend that you post a lot and have your photo, because it gives them depth and understanding into who you are as a person and what you'll be like to work with. So don't need to have it on your resume, completely fine, but definitely have it on your LinkedIn. And question from Linda. Hi, Linda. I wonder if you guys are offering any career counselling sessions in the future. I feel that I'm still not sure what role I'm qualified for after graduation. Great question. We are. We will be offering career coaching shortly through Study Melbourne Career Catalyst. By you guys being here today and signing up for our event, you will get access to all that information when it's released as well. So I'll just pop this slide back onto the event. If you haven't had a chance to register for the event, come along, you'll be able to access all that information and get in touch with us to be able to make sure you know when those programs are released. They'll be in the next coming weeks very shortly, and definitely sign up for a career counselling session. If there is no more questions, I will leave you guys to, one more, no problem. You're welcome, Linda. I will leave you guys to the rest of your Tuesday. Have a fantastic rest of week. I hope that this session was helpful. This is the beginning of the Career Catalyst program. There's lots of fantastic services being rolled out for you guys to make sure you've got the right skills and confidence to go out and get a job. And I look forward to hearing how your resumes and your templates go. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon. Bye.